Hello everyone, welcome back to Desert Fresh Aquatics. My name is Nate, and today we are going to be rescuing the plants and pufferfish out of the 5-gallon tank that I set up when I first started this channel. In this video, we're going to be completely stripping down that 5-gallon tank, draining it and removing all of the hardscape, the substrate, and the plants. And then we'll be setting up a 10-gallon tank to transfer the pufferfish and the plants into, to hold them until I can get more pufferfish and then add all of my puffers into this tank here at the same time. Theoretically, this should be a pretty simple process, but there's only one way to find out. Let's go ahead and get started. When I first set up that 5-gallon fish tank several months ago, it was really in pristine condition. I had a super healthy colony of bladder snails going and cleaning the tank, and the aqua soil was still providing a lot of nutrients for my plants to grow. However, my pufferfish that I added to that tank has eaten all of the bladder snails that I added in there initially, leaving my tank completely without an algae cleanup crew. And I believe that that, combined with the fact that my aqua soil is starting to run out of nutrients, is what's contributing to this massive algae bloom that's overtaking my tank right now. In the aquarium hobby, this is commonly known as old tank syndrome, and the smaller the tank you have, typically the faster old tank syndrome will set in, which makes sense considering that this small 5-gallon tank is only about 6 months old, but already experiencing those symptoms. As tempting as it is for me to just take my pufferfish out of that tank and put them into this one, pea pufferfish tend to be really territorial. So if I add that pufferfish into this tank by itself and then add puffers in later, that one fish will defend the entire tank like it's his territory. So when I do add pufferfish into this tank, I need to make sure that they're all added at the exact same time. And like I said in my previous video, I unfortunately won't be able to get any more pufferfish until probably February. Now, with that being said, my little pufferfish, I can't stand to leave them in that tank any longer with the algae bloom and everything happening in there. So we're gonna go ahead and create a new temporary home for that pufferfish just to last until February, when I can get the rest of my pufferfish and rehome them all into this larger 20-gallon tank. Now, this 10-gallon tank build that I'm gonna be doing today is not going to be an aquascape per se. It'll still be a good environment for the pufferfish to live in. It's just not going to be as artistically inspired as some of my other tank builds. And the reason for that is because it's only gonna be set up for a couple of months until I can get those pea puffers and put them all into this big tank here. I'm not super excited to spend all of this time cleaning the algae off of all of the plants, but it has to be done in order to save them. Well guys, we've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. All right guys, so first order of business is gonna have to be pulling the hardscape out of this tank. I'm gonna set it right here until we can get it cleaned up, but we're gonna remove the hardscape, get it cleaned up, and then we're gonna go ahead and get the plants removed. And then once everything is out of there, we'll go ahead and we'll drain the tank, remove our pufferfish, and then start getting the new tank set up. So let's get started on removing this hardscape. Well, that's a big old mess. Doesn't look nearly as cool out of the water. So now I'm gonna try to break this hardscape apart and remove all of the epiphytes off of it. I have 2 Anubias nana petite plants right here. And then right here in the middle, I've got my Piptospaetha ridleyi and tons of green hair algae. I mean, look, it's coming off in big clumps like that. That is pretty gross. So I'm gonna try to break this apart here so we can start working on the rest of it. Well, that was fairly easy. Now, I don't know if you guys remember just how tiny these were when I first planted them, but you can probably get a pretty good look at how much bigger these have grown just since I planted them. They've grown quite a bit, but I think that they've kind of reached their zenith because of the lack of nutrients in the tank. So hopefully we'll be able to see some more growth out of these. All Right, and there is our Piptospaetha ridleyi, and I'm gonna be reducing this down quite a bit. This was a really expensive plant. It doesn't look like it right now because it's so covered in algae and sad looking, but I'm gonna remove a lot of the leaves off of here, and hopefully we'll be able to have it spring back in a better condition. And you know what? I love this epiphyte so much, I'm thinking about actually putting some of this into my 20-gallon tank right now. We'll see what I decide. Now, I understand that what I'm doing here is probably really inefficient. So I think to truly get these pieces of hardscape as clean of all of this algae as possible, I am gonna have to submerge them in water and scrub them off with a brush. So I wanna do that not in tap water because that'll kill all of the beneficial bacteria on them, and I don't want chlorine to soak into these. So I'm gonna drain out a good chunk of the water out of this fish tank into this bucket here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get scrubbing on it and see if I can get some of this algae off of here. So I've got the bigger piece of driftwood in the bucket here, and I've got this smaller piece, which I'm thinking I might actually throw a bone to my Amano shrimp and go and put this in my big tank, because they pretty much mowed down all of the algae that was in that tank. So if I put this in there, that should give them a nice little meal for a little bit, and it'll help clean it up too. And I'm gonna go ahead and try to capture my puffer fish really quick. We'll see how this goes. Now this is probably the best look that we've had of my puffer since we first got her. I am pretty sure it's a female because I don't see a stripe on the belly or the telltale wrinkling on the eyes that would make it a male. So I believe this is a female. She's freaked out right now, obviously. She's been in a tank all by herself for 6 months. So I'm gonna put her down, put a little bit more water in here, see if we can keep her happy and healthy until we get the new tank set up, and let the draining continue. All right, so that's pretty much almost all the way drained. It's got about 1 inch of water left in the bottom, which I don't want to drain it all the way right now, because if I do that, then all of my plants are gonna dry out that are still in there. I took all the epiphytes that I pulled off of the hardscape and plopped them back in there just so they don't dry out while we're setting up our 10-gallon. So now we need to get the heater out of this tank, this very dirty tank. There we go. We'll have to take a little bit of time to get that cleaned up. And now I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna move it over to the table here just so that we can clear the space out. All right, so that piece is quite a bit more clean than it was. You guys can probably see how dirty that water is now that I scrubbed that off. So now I just gotta dump this water, and we're gonna transfer some substrate from the 5-gallon tank into the base layer of the 10. I know that there's still a lot of good nutrients in that substrate just from the waste that's been building up. And the biggest thing is I wanna add as much of that beneficial bacteria into this new tank as possible. That way it can get the quickest and best start on its cycle. So let's go ahead and we'll start with that. All right, so we've got our 5-gallon tank, and I'll let you guys have a peek inside there. So you can see I've got all my plants in there. I'm gonna have to pull those out. All of the plants that were planted in the substrate, I'm gonna have to clean the algae off of those just like I did my epiphytes. The epiphytes are clean, they just have to be attached somewhere. I'm gonna try not to glue anything on tonight if I can avoid it. I'd rather not have to spend the time to do that since this isn't a brand new aquascape, and it's not even really an aquascape, it's just a planted fish tank. So I'm gonna go ahead and scoop some of this substrate out, get it put into my 10-gallon tank over here. And then as soon as that's done, then we can go ahead, put the aqua soil in the the aqua soil into the 10-gallon tank here, and then get the plants in there, get it filled up, get the filtration running, get the lights going, and then get our puffer fish out of that glass. But look at the root system on that Cryptospiralis. Look at how much that grew since we planted it. And now that I'm in here digging around in the substrate, get you guys a better view here. I'm gonna go ahead and get all these plants out of here, and then I'll just get them cleaned up separately. All right, so now you can see we've got a pretty solid base of that old substrate in the new tank here, the new 10-gallon. I got this tank off of Facebook Marketplace. I think I spent like 15 bucks on it. Fish tanks don't always have to be expensive. They're usually more expensive if they're rimless, which I'm gonna be getting a rimless tank soon, but not until after I move in January. But let's go ahead and we'll add our aqua soil into here. All right, aqua soil going in. We're just gonna use the whole rest of this bag. And I'm just gonna do a level plant here, or a level grade with the aqua soil. Not gonna slope it or anything. Like I said, this isn't an aquascape. This is purely a fish tank. So this is just gonna create an environment for the fish that's gonna be healthy for them. All right, so now we'll get this aqua soil nice and wet, a little bit easier to plant into it that way. And it's not super deep, but like I said, this only has to last a couple of months. So this amount of aqua soil in a 10-gallon tank should be fine for that period of time. All right, so now that our aqua soil is nice and wet, I'm gonna go ahead and just start putting in some plants. All right, so that's all of our substrate plants. I'm gonna grab that piece of hardscape, that driftwood, we're gonna stick it just right in the middle. We're gonna try to squeeze all of our epiphytes in on top of that. And in you go. And for these, I'm just kind of ramming them wherever I think they'll be able to stay. All right, that should do the trick there. So it looks super empty right now, and it kind of is. It's pretty bare. A lot less stuff in here than what I'm used to putting in a fish tank. But I'm gonna get this moved back over to the counter, and then we're gonna go ahead and fill it up because we gotta get that puffer fish in here and acclimated as quick as we can. All right, guys, now it's time to go ahead and fill up the tank. All right, guys, so we've got the tank all full. Doesn't look half bad. Now I know that this heater that I have is not really designed for a tank this big, so hopefully it'll do the job for a couple of days until I can get a better heater, which I've already ordered. And then we've got our puffer fish here acclimating in the water. A little freaked out, but hopefully she settles in okay. And then I've got that one little Pea Puffer floating in there just so it doesn't dry out. I'm gonna try and put that into my 20-gallon tank just while we're waiting for our little puffer fish to get acclimated here. All right, guys, so here's our 20-gallon tank. As you can see, I put in that extra piece of driftwood in there. I've already seen some snails going around on there, as well as the mono shrimp paying it a couple of visits. Hopefully they keep eating away at that algae and cleaning up this piece of wood for me. I'm gonna leave that in there for probably a couple of days. But let's see if we can get the Piptospathorellii and tuck it right in that crevice right there. All right, so that's not super secure, but hopefully once those roots grow out, it'll kind of secure itself. Look right there, there's an Amano shrimp on the wood already. You could probably sense all that algae. So I've got 4 Amano shrimp in here and countless bladder snails, so hopefully they'll be able to clean that piece of wood up pretty quickly. All right, guys, so our puffer has been acclimating for about 30 minutes now. So we'll go ahead and we'll finally let her out of the bag and let her check out her new tank. Now, I'm sure she's probably a little bit overwhelmed right now, considering that this is a completely different setup than what she's used to. But I'm thinking we'll just turn off the lights, let her get comfortable in the new tank, let everything stabilize, and we'll check up on her later. All right, guys, and that should just about wrap up this project for now. As you can see, I've got that extra piece of driftwood in there. The shrimp are on it as we speak, cleaning it up. So I think I'll only probably leave that in there for a couple of days. My pufferfish is adjusting well to her new tank, and I'm excited to see how she ends up liking it as time goes on. I'll keep you guys posted on the progress of both of my fish tanks. And I think that my next video is probably gonna be a tour of that aquarium store that I got these tetras at. But I think that'll just about wrap it up. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. It definitely helps out my channel. And I'll see all of you guys in the next video. This has been Desert Fresh Aquatics, and thank you for watching.